Soft thunder rumbles in the distance. A gentle breeze drifts through hidden valleys, carrying whispers older than time itself. Before cities rose, before kings and queens carved names in stone, there was only the endless sky, vast, unbroken, and alive. The ancients believed the heavens spoke, clouds shifting, lightning flashing, thunder rolling like a voice too deep for mortal ears. And in those skies, a story was born. Not of war, not of conquest, but of an awakening that would shape the world forever. It begins with a hidden child. His laughter stirred the winds. His sighs echoed like distant storms waiting to be heard. This was Zeus, the Stormbringer, not yet a ruler of clouds and thunder, but a spark of destiny, small yet undeniable. Mountains kept his secrets. Seas sang softly, as if cradling the promise of what was to come. The sky seemed to wait, holding its breath for the rising storm. A force of balance and power, yet unseen. The storm does not begin with fury. It begins with silence, a whisper, a single note in the chorus of the heavens. And from that whisper, a voice would rise, a voice that one day would command the skies themselves. Long before mortals lit fires or carved maps, the heavens stretched wide, endless, and alive with secrets waiting to be heard. The stars shimmered like ancient eyes. Clouds drifted as if in thought, carrying voices too vast to be fully heard, yet always felt. Sometimes the skies murmured gently, like a lullaby sung by drifting winds. Other times, they sighed heavy with restless clouds. The mountains stood like listeners, their peaks brushing the heavens. When storms gathered, they trembled not in fear, but in reverence. The seas joined this endless conversation. Waves rose and fell in rhythm with the winds, answering thunder with their own timeless song. Earth and ocean looked upward, waiting for a sign. Both sensed that the sky was holding back a secret, not yet revealed. Then something changed. The clouds did not just drift. They gathered, not in menace, but in purpose, as if waiting for someone unseen. In the silence between breezes, a whisper lingered, faint, fragile, but certain, not for the ears, but for the heart. Something was beginning. The ancients believed the wind carried stories, songs, forgotten names, laughter of children, all woven into the fabric of air. Among those fragments came a new note. It trembled like the first spark of lightning hidden, luminous, a whisper of destiny. The skies leaned closer. Stars flickered into shapes that would one day be constellations. The moon cast silver paths across the seas. Everything paused. The leaves stilled. The waves held their breath. In that waiting, a storm began to form, not of chaos, but of becoming. The ancients said, the first sign of Zeus was stillness. Then came a pulse, like a heartbeat across the vastness of the sky. The heavens themselves were alive with anticipation. Clouds, stars, and rain bent toward a single promise of balance and renewal. From silence, the whisper grew, into song, into the first quiet roll of thunder. The sky was speaking a hidden name, Zeus. The name trembled through the air, though no mortal tongue had spoken it. It was the name of a storm unborn, a guardian unseen. The skies whispered it like a lullaby. Mountains echoed it in chants. Seas hummed it in their tides. Stars blinked to remember it. This was no ordinary storm. This was the Rising Storm, the storm of Zeus. Beneath the vast skies, when gods were whispers and the earth still dreamed, a child was born in silence. A silence so deep that even the stars seemed to pause. He was not born in palaces of gold or halls of stone. He was born in secrecy, hidden from eyes that might seek him too soon. Sheltered by the world itself, the sky bore witness. Clouds curled gently, not in storm but in softness. The moon lowered her pale light, as if offering her glow as a tender blanket. Even the mountains hushed their echoes, guarding the secret of this fragile beginning. This was Zeus, though his name was not yet spoken aloud. He was small, vulnerable, but touched by destiny. A stormbringer not yet risen, carried in shadows, preserved for a purpose still unspoken. The earth sheltered him in its quiet wisdom. Hidden in valleys, wrapped in nature's care, he was cradled, not by walls, but by sky, sea, and stone. Those who tended him were gentle keepers of the wild. They spoke the language of streams, and their hearts carried the music of the leaves. Among them was Amalthea, the giver of milk. To some she was a golden goat, to others a spirit of the land. To Zeus she was warmth and love. When he cried, the winds softened to calm him. When he laughed, the valleys echoed with joy, carrying his sound like music from stone to stone. When he slept, the stars leaned closer, flickering softly, as though keeping watch over the secret fire hidden within the child. The world became his cradle. The leaves rustled as lullabies, the streams murmured in song, and the tides gave him the rhythm of life. He grew in body and spirit, nourished not only by milk, but by whispers of earth, silence of skies, and the chorus of life all around. Yet even in this hiding, there was waiting. The skies did not forget their storm. The seas did not forget their rhythm. The heavens watched, patient and alert, as though counting each breath, each heartbeat, waiting for destiny to awaken in him. Though small, Zeus carried quiet knowing, like a seed holding the tree within, like a spark holding the promise of flame yet to rise. When he stretched his hands, clouds stirred faintly as if answering. When he sighed, distant thunder rolled low, echoing his breath. The ancients said he was never alone. The earth told him stories and dreams. Water sang of journeys. The sky promised freedom vast and untamed. Together, they shaped him gently, patiently, as though preparing a vessel that would one day hold the rising storm of the heavens. There was no rush. Destiny knows its timing. He grew slowly, like clouds building before rain, unseen but steady, waiting to unfold. To the world, he was hidden. To the heavens, he was becoming. A secret kept not in fear, but in hope, whispered again and again. Every gust of wind, every tide, every star carried the promise. This was the beginning of Zeus. Quiet, tender, but unstoppable. For even the greatest storms begin as whispers. And so, under watchful skies, the hidden child took his first breath of destiny. Zeus grew not in the courts of rulers, but in the embrace of gentleness. His earliest days were shaped not by power, but by love. Amalthea was his first guardian. To some, she was a golden goat. To others, a timeless spirit of the earth. To Zeus, she was comfort and warmth. Her milk was his first gift of life. Her steady breath his lullaby. Her watchful eyes the first stars he trusted in the hidden valley. When he stirred, she bent close. When he rested, she stood near. She was his shield, not of iron, but of love's quiet strength. The land joined her in care. Streams whispered lullabies. Grass softened his steps. Blossoms filled the air with fragrance of peace. Birds sang for him from the trees. Their songs rose like offerings, gentle and bright, as if the world itself wanted to soothe him. His laughter rang like music, stirring the air. Even the shadows of the mountains seemed lighter when his joy echoed through the valley. When tears came, Amalthea stayed near. The winds hushed to silence, and even the sky bent down to cradle his sorrow. The nymphs of the valley came often. Their laughter was like bells, their steps light as petals. They carried him in whispered songs. From them he learned joy and belonging. From them he heard stories not of fear, but of wonder, woven into the music of streams. Each day he grew in harmony. Amalthea gave him safety. The nymphs gave him play. The world gave him endless wonder. The earth did not rush him. The skies did not demand. He grew as rivers flow, as grass rises steady, natural, and full of strength. He chased sunbeams across meadows. He reached for clouds with curious hands. The storm within him stirred softly, still a distant promise. Every act of kindness laid a foundation. The ancients believed kings are formed not by crowns, but by the love that shapes them unseen. The tenderness of his hidden childhood gave him more than lightning ever could. It gave him compassion, the heart behind the storm. The child who would one day rule the skies knew warmth before thunder, laughter before lightning, and trust before command. This was his gift. Gentle nurturing, a beginning of compassion, not fear. Trust, not command. A storm born first of love. For even the greatest storms begin as breezes. And in that valley, the storm of Zeus learned to breathe in love before speaking in thunder. Every child grows, and with growth comes discovery. For Zeus, discovery carried whispers not only in his heart, but in the very air. The streams swelled stronger when he laughed. The winds stirred suddenly when his mood shifted, dancing through the trees without warning. When he stretched out his hand, leaves shivered though no breeze touched them. When he giggled, sparks flickered like fireflies born from the clouds. The nymphs saw it first. They whispered with awe, not fear. To them, he was still their playmate. Yet the sky's rhythm moved through him. Amalthea noticed too. When Zeus was restless, the valley shifted with him. When he calmed, the world breathed steady again. Zeus did not understand. To him, it was wonder. Winds lifted his hair, though trees stood still. Sparks danced on his fingertips like living light. One day, while chasing the nymphs, joy burst from him like sunlight. He raised his arms, and the clouds above answered with a deep rumble. The sound rolled across the valley, not fierce, but vast, like the earth clearing its throat. The nymphs froze in awe. Zeus only laughed. When silence returned, they knew they had witnessed more than play. Amalthea bowed her head, honoring the first true echo of his destiny. From that day, the valley listened to him. Storm clouds drifted without rain. Breezes circled at his steps. The elements leaned close like friends. Zeus remained a child of laughter. Thunder answered his joy. Flashes of light danced at his delight. Power bloomed in innocence, not in wrath. The ancients say that on quiet nights, when he slept, the stars shone brighter. The winds hushed, guarding their future king. The first signs of power were not threats. They were songs, the sky speaking through a child who knew nothing of destiny, only wonder. Beyond the valley, shadows stirred. Forces would one day rise against him. But for now, his gift was still a whisper, still a promise. Amalthea knew this promise must be nurtured, not rushed. The nymphs knew he must still laugh and play. They let him grow free. The storm was rising gently, like dawn before day. Zeus learned the skies were not above him, they were within him. Every gift must be guided. Every flame must be tended, lest it consume what it was meant to light. Zeus's power, once sparks of laughter, began to ripple beyond the valley. It needed shaping. Amalthea, the nymphs, and the valley's spirits knew the boy could not remain untrained. The world outside stirred. Shadows whispered beyond the mountains. A storm was rising. The training was gentle, never harsh. It was hidden in play, disguised as games. The nymphs taught him to listen, not only with ears, but with his whole being. The world speaks in whispers, they said. Leaves, waters, skies carry voices you must hear. Zeus sat watching grass bend in the wind, listening to rivers flow, hearing the rhythm of nature. He found his heartbeat matched it, as if the sky pulsed within him. Amalthea guided him in patience. Strength is not in rushing. Trees wait for roots to grow deep. She taught him to ground himself before calling the winds. Then they answered steadily, not wild. One night, the nymphs asked him to call the light within. He raised his hands, and a glow appeared. It was not lightning, but soft light, alive, breathing like the sky itself. The nymphs clapped with delight. Amalthea smiled with quiet pride. Training was about balance, not only power. To summon a spark, but to let it fade. Mastery was not control. It was harmony. to be one with the sky, not above it. The ancients say they wove secret games into his days, hide and seek with the wind. He found them by listening to air shift, or guided petals drifting on rivers with a breath. Each game shaped his senses, patience, and connection with the unseen. He grew stronger daily, though he thought it only play, only joy. Amalthea spoke of responsibility. Your gift is not for yourself. It is for the world. One day storms will listen to you. You must decide not only what they do, but why. Zeus did not grasp the weight, but felt its truth. He promised to use it with care. The valley was no longer only a cradle. It became a classroom of gentleness, not fear. Zeus remained young, but a quiet strength flickered beneath his laughter. He was no longer only a child of the storm. He was becoming a student of the sky. The world outside waited. Shadows stirred. But inside the valley, harmony shaped the storm. Far beyond the quiet valley where Zeus grew, the world began to stir. The earth sighed, and the skies whispered with unease. Mortals felt it without knowing why. Crops failed, winds turned wild, rivers overflowed or ran dry. The world mirrored its rulers. The Titans no longer stood in harmony. Cracks of discord ran through their dominion, and balance began to tremble. The seas shifted moods. Calm one day, furious the next. Mountains groaned, as if restless in their slumber. Even the stars flickered uneasily, waiting for something unseen. Mortals told stories by firelight. Change was coming, they whispered. Some feared storms too wild to endure. Others hoped for a dawn beyond the old order. But all agreed. The old world was weakening. The Titans felt it most. Ancient, vast, yet time pressed upon them. Their rule, once eternal, now felt fragile. Kronos, Lord of the Ages, carried the deepest unease. A prophecy haunted him. One of his children would rise above him. He tried to silence it, but it grew louder in the stillness. Restlessness spread across creation like a song. The winds carried it. The seas sang it. The mountains echoed it. The world was waiting, though none knew for what. In the hidden valley, Zeus remained untouched by this unrest. He laughed with nymphs and learned from Amalthea. Yet sometimes, when the wind shifted, he paused. He felt a weight in the air, a tension he could not name. It was as though the world itself was calling softly to him, a distant summons, tugging at the edges of his heart. Amalthea knew. The nymphs sensed it too. They grew quiet when the winds carried that strange voice. The valley could not protect him forever. Beyond the mountains, the storm of the world was rising, and one day it would meet the storm within him. Restlessness is not only breaking, it is preparing. It is the breath before song, the tremor before dance, the silence before thunder. So it was with the world. Beneath its unease was anticipation. Something awaited. The old order was fading. The new had not yet risen. Zeus remained a child, but already the world reached toward him. Not with fear, but with need. The balance trembled, and it called for a steady hand, a heart wide enough to guide it. In the meadow, Zeus chased the light and laughed. But far away, clouds gathered. Winds shifted. Mountains stirred. The restlessness of the world was calling his name. Far beyond the quiet valley where Zeus grew, the world began to stir. The earth sighed, and the skies whispered with unease. Mortals felt it without knowing why. Crops failed, winds turned wild, rivers overflowed or ran dry. The world mirrored its rulers. The Titans no longer stood in harmony. Cracks of discord ran through their dominion, and balance began to tremble. The seas shifted moods. Calm one day, furious the next. Mountains groaned, as if restless in their slumber. Even the stars flickered uneasily, waiting for something unseen. Mortals told stories by firelight. Change was coming, they whispered. Some feared storms too wild to endure. Others hoped for a dawn beyond the old order. But all agreed, the old world was weakening. The Titans felt it most. Ancient, vast, yet time pressed upon them. Their rule, once eternal, now felt fragile. Kronos, Lord of the ages, carried the deepest unease. A prophecy haunted him. One of his children would rise above him. He tried to silence it, but it grew louder in the stillness. Restlessness spread across creation like a song. The winds carried it. The seas sang it. The mountains echoed it. The world was waiting, though none knew for what. In the hidden valley, Zeus remained untouched by this unrest. He laughed with nymphs and learned from Amalthea. Yet sometimes, when the wind shifted, he paused. He felt a weight in the air, a tension he could not name. It was as though the world itself was calling softly to him. A distant summons, tugging at the edges of his heart. Amalthea knew. The nymphs sensed it too. They grew quiet when the winds carried that strange voice. The valley could not protect him forever. Beyond the mountains, the storm of the world was rising, and one day, it would meet the storm within him. Restlessness is not only breaking, it is preparing. It is the breath before song, the tremor before dance, the silence before thunder. So it was with the world. Beneath its unease was anticipation. Something awaited. The old order was fading. The new had not yet risen. Zeus remained a child, but already the world reached toward him. Not with fear, but with need. The balance trembled, and it called for a steady hand, a heart wide enough to guide it. In the meadow, Zeus chased the light and laughed. But far away, clouds gathered, winds shifted, mountains stirred. The restlessness of the world was calling his name. The days in the valley moved with a gentle rhythm, but for Zeus, something had changed. Since he gazed beyond the mountains, the valley no longer felt complete. A door had opened, and his heart leaned toward the horizon. He still played with the nymphs. He still laughed at their dances. He still learned under Amalthea's watchful gaze. Yet in quiet moments, he paused to listen, not to the voices of the valley, but to something deeper, something calling. The call was not loud or urgent. It was soft, patient, like a river carving stone. It waited for him to notice. Sometimes it came as a breath of wind, other times as a ripple of light across the sky. Once, by the stream, the water murmured words he almost understood. Destiny does not arrive like thunder. It arrives as a whisper, and once heard, it cannot be forgotten. Amalthea saw the change in him. She knew the signs of a child listening to the world beyond. "You are growing," she said one evening. "The valley has been your cradle, but you were never meant to remain here." "The valley is home," Zeus answered. "It is," she nodded. "But roots grow so wings may rise. And yours, child, are wings of sky." The nymphs felt it too. Their games grew quieter. Their songs softened into tones of farewell. Still, Zeus remained torn. He loved the valley, Amalthea, and the nymphs. Yet the whisper beyond the mountains was insistent. It promised he was more than what he had known, that the storm within him was not only joy, but destiny. At night, he searched the stars. Sometimes, it seemed they bent closer, drawing unseen maps. Once, at dawn, he dreamed of a vast sky. He heard voices like chords of a great song. His heartbeat aligned with their harmony. He awoke, breathless, the echo still inside him. The whisper of destiny had become a song. The ancients say every being meets this moment. Not a command, but an invitation. And in that moment, a choice begins to form. For Zeus, the choice was not yet clear. But deep inside, he knew the whisper would become a voice. And one day, he would have to answer. Until then, he listened. He learned. He grew. And beyond the mountains, the world waited, patient, as destiny always is. The valley remained a sanctuary, a cradle of peace. Yet far beyond its borders, the world stirred uneasily. The whisper Zeus had begun to hear was also a reflection of change. The gods on Olympus watched the earth with wary eyes. The Titans, proud and old, felt their dominion slipping. Mortals raised their gaze toward the heavens, seeking meaning. Shadows stretched across the world as doubts and unrest. Storms lingered longer, and the sea grew restless under the moon. Forests whispered secrets, and mountains groaned with hidden weight. In the valley, Zeus felt these tremors in subtle ways. The air pressed heavy upon his chest, carrying something unspoken. At night, Silence seemed too deep, like a pause before revelation. Amalthea lingered in thought, often gazing toward the horizon. The nymphs danced still, but their songs carried sorrow. One twilight, Amalthea spoke softly to Zeus. "The world beyond is shifting," she said. "It breathes uneasily, like a heart troubled by dreams." Zeus frowned. "Is it danger?" "Not danger as you think," she replied, "but change. And change can feel like shadow before it becomes light." The words sank into him like seeds. He sensed a waiting, as if the sky itself held its breath. At night, the stars pulsed brighter, restless in their dance. Sometimes they seemed to shift, writing messages in silence. He traced them with his finger, whispering questions. Answers came only as echoes. At dawn, he went to the stream once more. The water ran faster, carrying urgency like a warning. The gathering shadows were not evil. They were signs that balance was tilting. Zeus felt the storm within echo these changes. His laughter sometimes turned quiet. His thoughts deepened. He asked not of games, but of purpose. "Why do the stars move as they do?" he asked Amalthea. "Because they are part of a greater song," she answered. "And so are you." Her words comforted, yet carried weight. The greater song held both harmony and shadow. The nymphs told softer tales of ancient tremors. They spoke of titans, of gods, of mortals who dreamed. Zeus listened, heart swelling with questions. He wondered if his storm was part of their stories. He learned shadows are not to be feared. They remind the living of change. They prepare hearts for what is to come. The shadows gathered more clearly each day. In the pause of bird song, in the sudden stillness of wind, in the solemn hush of twilight, Zeus often stood at the valley's edge. He looked outward, sensing the horizon shift. He did not run from it. He did not yet step toward it. But he listened. He waited. And the world waited with him. High on the hidden peaks, unseen eyes watched the world. The silent watchers were neither gods nor mortals. They were older, shaped by time, bound to observe the balance. They spoke rarely, but their silence carried weight. They read the tremors in the earth and the pulse of the stars. They knew the world was shifting toward something vast. In the valley, Zeus felt the presence, though he could not name it. Sometimes, when he dreamed, he sensed eyes upon him, not hostile, not kind, simply watchful. It was as if the sky itself leaned closer to see him. The watchers did not interfere, yet they whispered to the winds. Their whispers stirred leaves, rippled waters, and brushed his hair. Zeus would pause, turning his head, sensing he was not alone. Amalthea knew of them but never spoke their names. "Some forces," she said, "exist only to witness. They guard balance, not through action, but through presence." The nymphs grew hushed when shadows of the peaks stretched long. They too felt the gaze of the silent watchers. The stars above seemed brighter when the watchers stirred. Sometimes, constellations appeared to shift, like eyes opening. Zeus watched them, feeling both small and immense. The valley no longer felt hidden. He understood now that even here, eyes found him. The watchers waited, patient as stone, still as mountain air. They knew the child was more than he appeared. They saw the storm within him growing. They saw the horizon bending toward him. Their silence was not indifference. It was the silence before revelation. One evening, as twilight deepened, Zeus felt its strongest. The wind stilled. The stream hushed. Even the nymphs grew quiet. In that hush, he sensed countless eyes, distant yet near. They did not speak. Yet he understood. The world was watching, waiting, and his time was drawing nearer. High above the mortal world, Olympus stirred. Its marble halls had long been quiet. Now whispers moved through its chambers like restless winds. The gods sensed the tremors of the earth below. Shadows lengthened across land and sea, and curiosity rose toward a hidden child. Hera walked the corridors with sharp eyes. She felt the shift most keenly. "The balance wavers," she murmured to the storm clouds. Demeter touched vines curling from marble walls. Even crops whispered of change in their cycles. Poseidon sent waves crashing against cliffs. His trident hummed with the pull of something new. Athena gathered scrolls of prophecy. She saw fragments, storms, flashes of light, a name unknown. Apollo strummed his lyre with chords of harmony and discord. "The song is changing," he whispered. Olympus was no longer still. Its pillars carried echoes of anticipation. Some gods welcomed the change. Others feared it. Old prophecies whispered of a child to rise. Zeus's name was not yet spoken, but his presence stirred in their thoughts. In the valley, the boy felt the sky watching. He could not explain it, but his heart knew. The heavens were stirring. Councils formed in Olympus. Gods debated with voices like rolling storms. "The world unravels," said Hera. "The Titans grow restless. A new thread begins." Poseidon struck his trident upon the floor. "Change is already here. We must seek its source." Hestia, calm by her flame, urged patience. "All things arrive in their season," she said. "To rush destiny is to stumble unready." Zeus did not hear their words, but he felt them in silence, wind, and water. When gods speak, the world echoes. Athena's voice grew steady. "A child born in secrecy carries the storm, and storms never arrive without purpose." Her words lingered in Olympus. The Titans stirred in their distant realms. They too sensed the pulse of change, and they did not welcome it. The air thickened with waiting. Olympus gazed downward, uncertain yet expectant. The earth trembled with questions. The seas roared without answers. The stars wrote riddles across the night. And in the valley, a boy laughed and dreamed. His heartbeat echoed in the chambers of gods. The valley had always been safe, a cradle of streams and stars. But lately, that peace felt thinner, stretched like parchment beneath fire. Zeus sensed something vast was about to unfold. He often climbed the highest ridge of the valley. From there, mountains stood like guardians of his world. Yet now, they looked more like gates, waiting to open. Amalthea stood beside him, her voice soft. "The air changes. It is the breath of destiny, and you stand at its heart." Zeus felt the truth, though he did not understand. The wind carried voices he could not name. The streams whispered secrets beyond hearing. The stars leaned closer, like eyes waiting for him. Dreams came vividly, flashing across the heavens. He saw shadows taller than mountains, and a throne carved of storm clouds and flame. He woke with his heart thundering like lightning within him. The nymphs noticed the change as well. They spoke softly when Zeus passed. Some bowed, sensing his strength. Others stared with wonder at the boy they raised. One evening, twilight wrapped the valley in gold. Zeus felt an irresistible pull to the ridge. At the summit, he looked to the horizon. The sky parted, clouds drifting away. A glow appeared beyond the mountains. Not sun, not moon, but something greater. It pulsed like the heartbeat of the heavens. Amalthea's gaze stayed fixed on the light. "You are reaching the edge," she whispered. "Beyond this place lies the truth of who you are." Fear and excitement stirred within Zeus. The valley had been his sanctuary, but it could not contain the storm inside him. Invisible walls pressed against his spirit. In silence, he closed his eyes. The wind carried voices of gods and titans. He heard fragments, questions, warnings, promises. The time of waiting was ending. Below, the nymphs gathered together. Their songs grew softer, like farewell. Amalthea placed her hand upon his shoulder. "You were hidden for a reason," she said. "But no secret lasts forever. The world stirs, and you must step into it. What you become will shape the fate of all." Zeus turned to her, his eyes bright. "Will I be ready?" he asked. Her smile was gentle, though her eyes were heavy. "Readiness is not given. It is found. You will learn by stepping forward, not standing still." Her words lingered like the final notes of a song. That night, Zeus lay awake beneath the stars. He listened to the silence between the crickets. He heard the hum beneath the earth. It was destiny, steady and unstoppable. The valley had been his cradle, his beginning, but the storm belonged to a larger sky. And so, at the edge of revelation, he understood. He was more than a child of the valley. He was a child of the storm. And soon, the storm would break.